Hey guys, today I'm going to review the Ziigaat Estrella. It's a collab IEM between JayAudio and Ziigaat. A big thanks to Jay and Linsoul for arranging this review unit. Please check my unaffiliated links below to Linsoul. Linsoul also has many other IEMs and other audio gears you might need. But all the thoughts and opinions you're about to hear are my own and no one is influencing anything. Hey guys, quick break over here. 94% of the people watching this video aren't subscribed, so I would really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button and also like my video. That really helps me out a lot and it helps me to bring out more reviews to you, and you can also stay updated for all the latest product reviews I bring. So yeah, back to the video. The packaging of the Estrella is really simple. As you can see, I have popped it up on the screen. The price of the Estrella is $299 in Linsoul. What I can say about the faceplate, it's very pretty and I really like it. As you can see, yeah, I really like it. I would like to see just the design rather than the Ziigaat logo in the middle. I think so it would look really nice if there was no logo in the between, because the entire faceplate, as you can see, it's very nicely done. Yeah, again, this is just a nitpick from me. The cable, this is not the stock cable which I'm using over here. This is a Yongxi Venom, but the stock cable provided is very simple and it terminates to 3.5 millimeter. Again, this is not the stock cable. I'm just testing some other cables, so I'm just using it as of now. At this price, I would have expected, but I'm actually okay, because if all the money goes towards a good driver this has, then it's good. Because I would have expected a modular cable at this price point. Also, I love the case Ziigaat has included, because as I can easily keep a dongle DAC, the IEM and the USB-C cable. I think so this case retails for around $10 separately. So I think so this case is really nice, and it's nice that they have included this inside the package. Talking about the drivers, they have 2 DD and 4 BA, which makes it 6 drivers per side, and they have genuine American Knowles 29669, 29689 and the European Sonian 2345 full range BA drivers, along with the Sonian E50 series BA super tweeters, along with the 2 DD. So that's really nice. So they're using all name branded BAs. Generally you see sometimes IEMs not using name branded BAs, so that's nice to know. Now the supply of ear tips is quite sparse too, but the inclusion of foam tips is nice, as they give a nice fit to most people out there, and many people prefer the foam fit. Sadly, there is one major con which I came across, is that these have major driver flex issues. This seems very annoying, especially at this price of $300. I don't know again if this is an issue with my unit or it is with everyone, but I found it to be very annoying, especially when every time I'm putting the IEM, there is a loud crinkly noise of that DD. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Also, they're quite easy to drive. They can easily be driven with a smartphone, as the stock cable is 3.5, but they do scale well with power, and they sound really good with a good DAC and more power, in my opinion. The comfort of the Estrella is fantastic, and also the seal is very good, but you have to remember that you get a good tip. You have to do some tip rolling, which I'll talk about more in the review. It attenuates quite a bit of the surrounding noise, and the attenuation is quite close to some budget ANC TWS, so that's really nice. For me, the Estrella seemed a bit source picky, and what I mean by that is that when I picked something warmer, it made it a bit it sounded a bit different, and something neutral made it sound something a bit different. So depending on the flavor of the DAC, the dongle DAC you're using, I think so Estrella picks it up very easily. Now I'll talk about that in detail later in the review when I also talk about the different tape mods and the ear tip mods. One of the biggest noticeable thing for me was that the fit for me was quite iffy. The stock ear tips didn't fit me at all, and I'm not a fan of foam tips that much, so I didn't really use them. So as of now, I do not have any tips, but while testing them, while using them, I resorted to other tips. So I tested the Divinus Velvet White Bore, many other tips which I have in my collection, Tangzhou Shansai White Bore, Dunu SNS, and many other tips. For me, the best one was Dunu SNS and the Divinus Velvet White Bore for fit and comfort. I highly suggest trying third-party tips, as the Estrella is also very tip dependent, along with being source dependent. There were minor sound differences between the Dunu SNS and the Velvet White Bore. I'll talk about them in detail again in the later half of the review, when I also talk about the different mods. This is the vent of the Estrella, wherein you can apply a tape and mod the sound. Alternatively, you can also use a microport tape for sort of a third variation of the sound. It is something being suggested highly by Jay, and Jay also said that the tape mod, which is the clear tape mod, is something what he wanted to do, but he added a tad bit of a bass so that more wider base of the consumer can enjoy it. For my main review of the sound, I'll be using the Velvet Whiteboard tips and the stock cable, and no tape mod whatsoever. What you see over here is just the cable I've been testing recently, and as of now I do not have the ear tips over here. This is just for the video. Now, up until now, I have complained about some things about the Estrella, but now when I'm going to talk about the sound, everything changes. The overall sound of the Estrella is what you would consider as a V shape, and it is done very tastefully over here. It's a bit hard to explain, but please stick on for my detailed sound impressions. Sub-bass of the Estrella has a great texture and is boomy without sounding too boomy and too bloaty, because sometimes there is a good copious amount of sub-bass. I want that boomy sub-bass, but I do not want it to be too boomy, too bloaty, and Estrella does that very well. It has a very good balance of that sub-bass. When listening to the song Crack Crack Crackle by Classy, the sub-bass section in the starting 1 minute of the song, it is done so perfectly. It has the right amount of punch and the boominess from the sub-bass you would expect. Unlike some Harman IEMs, the mid-bass here has some meat, and the meat is good, it is very juicy. The mid-bass doesn't make it sound muddy, but it is done fantastically well over here, and it goes very well with the sub-bass. The glide from the sub-bass to the mid-bass is very good in the Estrella. In the Hollow 16-bit remix by Bjork, the initial minute of the song has a lot of things happening, and the fantastic mid-bass of the Ziigaat Estrella sounds very right and meaty, without sounding, well, hollow, unlike most Harman-tuned IEMs. The juxtaposition of the sub-bass and the mid-bass is done fantastically well in the Estrella. And for fun V-shape IEM lovers like me, this is the biggest draw of the Estrella. But that doesn't mean it muddies up the mids. So when coming to mids, especially the male vocals, they do take a step back in the entire mix. But the richness of and the thickness of voices like Chris Cornell's and Bill Withers is done quite good. They sound really good, and the texture of their voice is really natural. The female vocals again was surprising to me, because when listening to my varied J-pop playlist, the female vocals were done perfectly and sounded natural without being shrilly, even at higher volumes. For example, when I'm listening to songs by Ikimonogakari, vocalist Kioi Yoshioka has a very strong vocal presence, and in certain songs like Sakura and Hanabi, Estrella didn't fall apart. even at higher volumes, and it maintained its composure over here. Some IEMs at higher volumes, they do fall apart. They do sound a bit shrilly. They do sound a bit PSE. But Ziigaat Estrella didn't do that. Ziigaat Estrella maintained that, and that was really shocking to me, because I think so I've come across maybe a handful of IEMs, like I can count them in one hand, which does that vocal of Kyo Yoshioka very well. So Estrella does that. The treble again is done very well for my taste here, as the treble doesn't follow the typical Harmon curve. The treble is absolutely fantastic. When listening to the 1985 live album by Cassiopeia, especially in the song Asayake, it is more evident. The treble could be a bit shrilly and PSE for some at higher volumes, especially in the mid-treble area. I think so this area would be around 3 to 5K, somewhere around that. So treble sensitive folks might find it to be a bit PSE or spicy, although sometimes this is only apparent if you are at higher volumes. Air region of the treble is done very well too. It has a very good balance between the treble and the air region of the treble. As someone who loves a wide and spacious soundstage, again Estrella is my top pick, because when it comes to soundstage, it has this wide spacious feeling which I really like. Again, listening to the 1985 live version of the Galactic Funk song, the instrument positioning and the claps of the audience sounds so fantastic. It has pinpoint accuracy, so you can understand that the audience is in the background. You can like pick up the claps from each of the audience. It is so nice. It was quite surprising as to how good the soundstage is. Both the width and the depth of the soundstage is absolutely fantastic over here. Imaging too is done fantastically well. Watching movies and TV shows is a treat in the Estrella. The left to right and the right to left transition is really good. There is a scene in the Top Gun movie where the planes fly off like this, right? And it sounds really good. And that transitioning of and that imaging of that from left to right is done really well in the Estrella. For gaming, these sound really good as expected. The spacious soundstage and the fantastic imaging makes this a great choice for gaming. When there are bomb explosions, in the stock tuning, it doesn't sound too boomy or too overwhelming. Now let's talk about the different ear tips and how they change the sound. The velvet whiteboard tips which I used for this review, it gives the bass a nice roundness, and both the sub bass and the mid bass works well in tandem. With the SNS tip, it sounded a bit more mid bass heavy, and although it does improve upon the already fantastic soundstage, I didn't find it to be that good for longer period of use. I personally didn't like the foam tips either, which comes as the treble doesn't shine really well, and I don't think so the BA, which is inside the Estrella, they get to flex their muscles. I also tried the Tangju Sansai tips and saw no improvements for me. I used the whiteboard version mostly, but it did reduce the driver flex by quite a bit. And also the bass saw a tad bit of a reduction, which is a nice tuning for those who might find the bass of the Estrella in the stock tuning to be a tad bit more. So with the Tangju Sansai white tips, you can control it a bit more well. Now talking about source, this was actually a nice surprise. As neutral leaning sources like the FIO KA17 or the iBasso DCS7 Pro. By the way, stay tuned and subscribe as a iBasso DCS7 Pro review will come soon. So yeah, let me position that. Yeah, they do change the overall sound of the Estrella, and the attack and the decay of the bass are a bit better. They're a bit cleaner. They're a bit more crisper. And the treble sounds a bit more spicy in a good way, obviously. With a warmer sounding source like the Hibi FC6 or the i5 Gobar Kensei, the bass attack and decay are a bit sluggish, and the treble sounds a bit more polished and rounded off. Now, depending on the type of source or how many source you own, this could be seen as a good thing or a bad thing. I like that I can change the flavor of the sound by a tad bit by using a different source. I have been mainly using the DC07 Pro and the Gobar Kensei with me. Gobar Kensei. I think these three work really well. As for suggestion which source I would suggest, it's a bit tough. In my opinion, a neutral sounding source for Estrella stock tuning is better for most people, as the bass and the treble seems more alive, like the DC07 Pro, and the dichotomy between them is more apparent, the bass and the treble. But if you like warm or something more analogish sounding, then a warmer source like the i5 Gobar Kensei Hibi FC6 is better. I know that the pricing of these sources are quite more. This is $200 and this is $300, but I'm just giving an idea as to what kind of source you might like it with. Again, the differences is quite minute, so do not be scared away if you have a different kind of source. I think so it sounds better in most sources, but this is me just giving an idea as to how the Ziigaat Estrella might perform with different kind of sources. I want to iterate that although there is a change of flavor of the sound of the Estrella, especially when compared to other IEMs, the change, as I said, is quite subtle, and it shouldn't be a top priority when considering to buy the Estrella, because Estrella is very easy to drive, and even with a smartphone it sounds really good, as I said. Now coming to the tape mods, well, to be honest, I actually didn't like the clear tape mod that much which Jay suggested, because there is a peak of treble which becomes more apparent to me, and I don't personally like it. Also, the soundstage seems a bit more cramped, which I'm not a big fan of too. I thought the soundstage might be better, but to me it sounds a bit more cramped with the vent block. But for people who likes more neutral sound, this would be a nice addition, as the sub-bass reduction and it being more aligned with the mid-bass does sound nice in many classical songs and some very vocal heavy J-pop songs, especially the female vocals. The mid sound even more livelier, and the treble flexes its muscles even better, and they sound very sparkly. But again, with this mod, the treble could be a bit fatiguing for some treble sensitive folks out there, especially at higher volumes. There is one more mod you can do, which is the micropore tape mod. It lands somewhere in between the normal sound and the complete tape mod. With this, the overall bass is a tad bit lower than the stock tuning, but what this also does, it lowers the mid bass. It sounds a bit harmony for my taste, like it sounds very close to the Harman target curve, although it still sounds good. I prefer the stock sound over that, in my opinion. So if you do get Estrella, do try the different tape mods which I suggest or which are out there. One good thing is that they aren't permanent, so you shouldn't be worrying about damaging the IEM. Also, most importantly, do try different tips, as the tips are essential for a proper fit. And if you also have access to different sources, do try them and see which you like. So let's talk about some comparisons. Let me bring in some IEMs. So this is the S15. So versus the S15 over here. It's a bit difficult to compare them because the S15 is sort of an unique IEM. Not many people like it, but I really like it as it's a great everyday IEM for comfort. It's very small, and also the overall tuning of the S15 is very chill and sort of an all-rounder, so it works great for background listening. The Estrella has obviously more punch and more contrast between the bass and the treble, which makes it more exciting. But that also means it isn't suited for some genres. Where the S15 beats the Estrella is the S15 is a fantastic low volume set, while the Estrella needs to be played at higher volumes for you to understand its full potential. Versus the Cadenza 4. The Cadenza 4 was overlooked by many people. It's a very good neutral sounding IEM with a tad bit more focus on the upper mids. The comfort and the fit of the Cadenza 4 is unmatched. The Estrella can be seen as the anti-Cadenza 4, so it depends on what kind of tuning you like or you want. Do remember this is $50 cheaper than the Estrella, and the S15 at its MSRP is $30 more expensive than the Estrella, but you can find it on sale as of now. Versus the Simgot EM10. Versus the Simgot EM10. The EM10 is a IEM which I would call as Harman supercharged with copious amount of bass, especially in the sub bass, and quite a bit of upper mids, while the treble being quite mellowed out. It's a great IEM for those who want a super fun sounding IEM and wants a lot of sub bass, especially in this and a lot of bass, especially in the sub bass area. But there is a lack of mid bass in the EM10. It's a bit meh for some songs. The Estrella, in my opinion, performs better than the $450 EM10 for most genres, but the bass quality, especially in the sub bass, I do think if I do very critical listenings, if I go for nitpicking, I do think that the sub bass quality is maybe a hair better in the EM10. But there is one thing where the EM10 is absolutely better than the Ziigaat Estrella. Two things. One is treble sensitive folks will like the EM10 because in some instances the Ziigaat Estrella at higher volumes could be a bit PSC, a bit pokey to their ears for the treble sensitive folks. The EM10 doesn't do that. Now one more thing for which I listen to the EM10 over the Estrella sometimes is that the EM10 works fantastically well as a low volume set. The Estrella, to flex its muscles and to sound at its best, it has to be played at a moderate volumes to higher volumes. By the way, the EM10 is a personal unit. I bought it with my own money. Shall I make a review of it? I don't plan on making a review of it. If you want me to, do comment below. I'll make a review of the Simgot EM10. Well, overall, I really like the Estrella. It certainly does have some drawbacks, like I mentioned, like the serious amount of driver flex I get every time I wear, or it being very tip dependent, or the meh cable at a price point of $299 price point, or also the flavor of the sound changing depending on the type of source you are using. A con I also forgot to mention specifically is that Estrella is a high volume set. So someone who is a low volume listener like me, this was a bit disappointing, as I very rarely do loud volume music sessions. But I just want to say that it is very enjoyable. So when I was pairing it with the iBasso DC07 Pro, I really enjoyed them. I sat for a sessions to test at higher volumes, and I listened to for like 2 hours or 3 hours. So that was really good. It's very enjoyable. Even after all the cons I mentioned, which are very minor cons, I think the Estrella is a fantastic IEM. It's my favorite IEM now, because for the genres of music I listen to, this performs really well. And as someone who loves a good wide soundstage, the Estrella is something always I would pick, because I can handle a bit of a mushy sub bass, I can handle a bit of a meh mids, I can handle a bit of a peaky treble. But if you have something but if it has a good wide spacious soundstage, I'll always prefer that. And Estrella not only has fantastic bass, a good mid, a very well controlled treble, it also has fantastic soundstage, which I really like. Also, one more thing, I suggest using the Tangshu Shansai whiteboard tips, velvet whiteboard tips, and some micro pore and normal tape. Try them with different combinations to see which one you like. What's your favorite tuning? For me, the stock tuning with the whiteboard tips, they sound the best. I think so. Jay and Ziigaat has done a really good job over here with the sound. I think so. This collab is fantastic. If you have $300, if you're looking for an IEM at around the $300 price point, and especially if you like something fun sounding, I don't think so you can go wrong with the Ziigaat Estrella. I just wish there was less driver flex every time I insert the IEM. That is like the one con I can say. So yeah, that's my review of the Ziigaat Estrella. If you have any questions, please do comment below and I'll try to help you out. Like and subscribe, as it helps me out a lot in making these reviews. It's free and it's a great way of supporting me. I hope you have a great day ahead. Bye.